The Israel-Hamas war is taking a heavy toll in civilian lives, especially in the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip, where at this moment more than 4,300 people have been killed so far. You must hear that number again. 4,300 Palestinian civilians have been killed in this conflict in the first fortnight. Israel seeks to avenge the 7th of October attack on its territory through its relentless campaign of bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Israel, remember, has blockaded the Gaza Strip, and the blockade has now run into its 13th day. It has also announced its intention of executing a full-blown ground incursion into the Gaza Strip. The other regional players such as Iran that have backed the anti-Israeli resistance forces such as Hamas in the Gaza Strip and Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran has hinted at a potential intervention by the resistance forces, that is the Hezbollah and other factions, if Israel decides to actually invade into the Gaza Strip. The mounting civilian toll in Gaza has also unnerved other nations. It is in this backdrop that leaders and top officials from more than a dozen nations gathered in the Egyptian capital of Cairo. The meeting is focused on ways to try and de-escalate the Israel-Hamas war.
Perché se anche i nostri punti di vista di partenza non fossero perfettamente sovrapponibili, perfettamente sovrapponibile è il nostro interesse. L'interesse di tutti i leader seduti attorno a questo tavolo, e cioè l'interesse a che quello che sta accadendo a Gaza non diventi un conflitto molto più ampio, non si trasformi in una guerra di religione, in uno scontro tra civiltà, rendendo vani gli sforzi che pure coraggiosamente in questi anni sono stati fatti in senso contrario per normalizzare I rapporti.
Now, the conference comes amidst growing fears of a wider conflict in West Asia. Representatives from countries including the likes of Jordan, France, Germany, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, the United States, Qatar and South Africa are attending this one-day meeting. The United Nations and European Union officials are also present. In his opening remarks, the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has urged leaders to come to an agreement on a roadmap to end the humanitarian disaster in the Gaza Strip and to revive a path to peace between Israel and the Palestinians. The roadmap includes goals like the delivery of aid to Gaza and also effecting a ceasefire, leading up negotiations on a two-state solution.
كما أؤكد للعالم بوضوح ولسان مبين وبتعبير صادق عن إرادة وعزم جميع أبناء الشعب المصري فردا فردا إن تصفية القضية الفلسطينية دون حل عادل لن يحدث، وفي كل الأحوال لن يحدث أبدا على حساب مصر.
Now, the absence of any official from the Israeli side has, of course, dampened expectations on what the summit can achieve. Many world leaders who are attending the summit have expressed disappointment on Israel's attacks on civilian population that has left hundreds of thousands of people with virtually no means to live a normal life. However, the leaders have also condemned the brutal Hamas attack on Israel that has killed 1,400 people.
Be clear. The grievances of the Palestinian people are legitimate and long. We cannot and must not ignore the wider context for these tragic events, the long-standing conflict and 56 years of occupation with no end in sight. But nothing can justify the reprehensible assault by Hamas that terrorized Israeli civilians. And those abhorrent attacks can never justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people.
The clashes in the Israel border with Lebanon and also the attempted attacks by Iranian-backed forces elsewhere have fueled fears of a spillover of the war. Growing anti-Islamic and anti-Semitic harassment around the world has also raised security concerns in many nations. And we earlier spoke with Mr. Badr Al-Saif, who is a professor of history. He joined us live on this broadcast, and this is what he had to say about this issue.
Before getting to the statements, let me begin on the rationale behind gathering this impressive large roster of leaders from across the world in Cairo today. The objective is to have a clear stand on the mounting aggression in Gaza. This has translated into an unfortunate failure and lack of leadership from the UN Security Council, which has not, to this point, has issued a resolution calling for a ceasefire, condemning the violence. And this is unfortunate because few attempts have been made, but they keep getting vetoed by the US. And this is something that does not bode well for the American standing in the region and globally. And as we can see in the Cairo summit, they're trying their best to calm tensions, to call for an immediate ceasefire, to allow for the aid and supplies that has been hanging by the Gaza-Rafah crossing border for weeks now without them being allowed in, and to try and translate the cross-sectional support from people around the world in the region and across. You mentioned the protests in London. There were protests in New York earlier today, and many, many other cities on the unnecessity behind this genocide that's happening before our eyes. The indiscriminate killing of civilians is something that no one should allow. And this is something that should stop right away.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.